The more powerful and original a mind, the more it will incline towards the religion of solitude. I wanted to change the world, but I have found that the only thing one can be sure of changing is oneself. All that happens means something. Nothing you do is ever insignificant. It's a little embarrassing that after 45 years of research and study, the best advice I can give people is to be a little kinder to each other. A man can smile and be a villain. Never put off till tomorrow the fun you can have today. You can't consume much if you sit still and read books. If one's different, one's bound to be lonely. To travel is to discover that everyone is wrong about other countries. For every traveler who has any taste of his own, the only useful guidebook will be the one which he himself has written. Universal happiness keeps the wheels steadily turning. Truth and beauty can't. I want to know what passion is. I want to feel something strongly. No social stability without individual stability. Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. Consciousness is only possible through change. Change is only possible through movement. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you mad. After silence, that which comes nearest to expressing the inexpressible is music. There are things known and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception. An intellectual is a person who has discovered something more interesting than sex. Man is an intelligence, not served by, but in servitude to his organs. But the nature of the universe is such that the ends never justify the means. On the contrary, the means always determine the end. We are not our own any more than what we possess is our own. We did not make ourselves. We cannot be supreme over ourselves. We are not our own masters. Well, I'd rather be unhappy than have the sort of false, lying happiness you were having here. There is only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's your own self. That all men are equal is a proposition which at ordinary times no sane individual has ever given his assent. Every man's memory is his private literature. But I don't want comfort. I want God. I want poetry. I want real danger. I want freedom. I want goodness. I want seen. We shall be permitted to live on this planet only for as long as we treat all nature with compassion and intelligence. Actual happiness always looks pretty squalid in comparison with the overcompensations for misery. Maybe this world is another planet's hell. I'm claiming the right to be unhappy. Writers' right to influence their readers, their preachers, their auditors, but always, at bottom, to be more themselves. One believes things because one has been conditioned to believe them. In a word, they failed to take into account man's almost infinite appetite for distractions. Great is truth, but still greater, from a practical point of view, is silence about truth. Nobody can have the consolations of religion or philosophy unless he has first experienced their desolations. Liberties aren't given, they are taken. There was a thing called heaven, but all the same they used to drink enormous quantities of alcohol. It is possible to argue that the really influential book is not that which converts 10 millions of casual readers, but rather that which converts the very few who, at any given moment, succeed in seizing power. Habit converts luxurious enjoyments into dull and daily necessities. Most human beings have an almost infinite capacity for taking things for granted. Which is better, to be born stupid into an intelligent society or intelligent into an insane one? When people are suspicious with you, you start being suspicious with them. But then every man is ludicrous if you look at him from outside, without taking into account what's going on in his heart and mind. The optimum population is modeled on the iceberg 8/9 below the waterline, 1/9 above. Pain was a fascinating horror. Back to culture. Yes, actually to culture. You can't consume much if you sit still and read books. Give us this day our daily faith, but deliver us, dear God, from belief. Happiness is not achieved by the conscious pursuit of happiness. It is generally the byproduct of other activities. We live together, we act on, and react to one another. But always, and in all circumstances, we are by ourselves. Technological progress has merely provided us with more efficient means for going backwards. These are the sort of things people ought to look at. Things without pretensions, satisfied to be merely themselves. Experience is not what happens to a man. It is what a man does with what happens to him. It isn't a matter of forgetting. What one has to learn is how to remember and yet be free of the past. We don't want to change. Every change is a menace to stability. To see ourselves as others see us is a most salutary gift. Hardly less important is the capacity to see others as they see themselves. We are all geniuses up to the age of 10. All gods are homemade, and it is we who pull their strings, and so give them the power to pull ours. And an exciting truth may be eclipsed by a thrilling falsehood. Can you say something about nothing? Our vanity makes us exaggerate the importance of human life. The individual is nothing. Nature cares only for the species. Consistency is contrary to nature, contrary to life. The only completely consistent people are the dead. I know the outer world as well as you do, and I judge it. You know nothing of my inner world, and yet you presume to judge that world. It is natural to believe in God when you're alone, quite alone, in the night, thinking about death. Words form the thread on which we string our experiences. To be excited is still to be unsatisfied. The course of every intellectual, if he pursues his journey long and unflinchingly enough, ends in the obvious, from which the non-intellectuals have never stood. My father considered a walk among the mountains as the equivalent of church-going. A bad book is as much of a labor to write as a good one. It comes as sincerely from the author's soul. Everybody strains after happiness, and the result is that nobody is happy. Everyone who knows how to read has it in their power to magnify themselves, to multiply the ways in which they exist, to make their life full, significant, and interesting. Those who meant well behaved in the same way as those who meant badly. Perhaps it's good for one to suffer. Can an artist do anything if he's happy? Would he ever want to do anything? What is art, after all, but a protest against the horrible inclemency of life? When one individual comes into intimate contact with another, she or he, of course, as the case may be, must almost inevitably receive or inflict suffering. Dream in a pragmatic way. The greater a man's talents, the greater his power to lead astray. The urge to escape from selfhood and the environment is in almost everyone almost all the time. Wherever the choice has had to be made between the man of reason and the madman, the world has unhesitatingly followed the madman. Thought must be divided against itself before it can come to any knowledge of itself. A man may be a pessimistic determinist before lunch and an optimistic believer in the will's freedom after it. The gods are just, no doubt, but their code of law is dictated, in the last resort, by the people who organize society. Providence takes its cue from men.